All right, time for another episode here, another edition of Survive and Thrive with CH Insurance and our buddy Joe Convertino Jr. Joe, how are you?
Good morning, Gomez and Lisa. How are you?
Good, good. A nice sunny day up near 90. A good day to get out on the golf course for some.
Oh, yeah, beautiful day, and hope you had a nice Father's Day, and everybody out there hopefully had a great Father's Day weekend.
Well, sports on our mind this morning with today's guest here for Survive and Thrive. Joe, why don't you introduce our guest this week?
Yeah, we're very happy to have John Rathbun with us, who has been the executive committee director for Section 3. Okay, we know since 2008. John, welcome. Sports has been on everybody's mind. We've seen you all over virtually, and with businesses, no different than high school sports. We thought bring you on and really talk about what's going on in Section 3 and what some of your plans are post-COVID.
Okay. And actually, thank you guys for having me on this morning. It's really been a strange but a very challenging time for us here in Section 3. So what we're trying to do is just adjust on a daily basis, because this whole pandemic has really thrown a monkey wrench into everything we do. So, we've got Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, and Plan D moving forward. And we're really just waiting for some sort of guidelines from, the CDC, the governor's office, county officials, but we're waiting to go. And we want sports to start back up in September. We want the students to get back to school in September. So, that's our best case scenario, that everything will be back to relatively normal come September 1st or September 5th, whatever that first day of school would be.
Hey, John, just for geographic reference, I know Section 3 encompasses a big part of Central New York and the Mohawk Valley. Like farthest north, I know like A Bay and Watertown is part of Section 3. How about like all the directions, furthest school districts that are part of Section 3?
Yeah, the New York State Public High School Athletic Association is divided into 11 different sections. We are actually the largest of all 11 sections landmass-wise. So we cover to the north, Thousand Islands, down to the south, the Cortland-Homer area. Out east, it would be the Dalzell Little Falls area. Out west would be Cato, Meridian, Auburn. So we have 106 schools. We're the second largest as far as the number of schools within New York State. So the main three regions that we deal with are the Watertown area, the Utica area, and then the Syracuse area. Those are our target market areas.
And we're talking to John Rathbun this week, the Executive Director of Section 3 Athletics, with Joe Convertino Jr. here with CH Insurance and Survive and Thrive. And we'll continue on Zoom, and you'll be able to watch this in its entirety a little bit later on our Facebook page at TK Classic Rock. And we do continue.
Boom.
Just good stuff. Hey, John, obviously a lot of the pro sports are having troubles getting off the ground, or at least getting a plan together. I should say some have a plan, but actually being able to enact the plan is becoming quite tricky. I'm sure you guys are paying a lot of close attention to what Major League Baseball or the NFL or any of the fall sports that you would be a part of, and what they're going to be doing.
Yeah, and actually, Gomez, I mean, like I said, I have 4 different plans moving forward, and I think a lot of that really depends on, what they tell us we can do and what adjustments we really need to make. But I think a little bit different between the pros and high school. We're like a regional type area, so we don't really have much travel outside our region, as opposed to like pro athletes coming in from all different parts of the United States, trying to go into like the so-called bubble. So we're a little bit different. But I do get up in the morning and I watch the Korean Baseball League to find out the things that they're doing with social distancing and interaction with officials and that kind of stuff like that. So we can steal some ideas. And Glenn, you taught me a long time ago, amateurs borrow and professionals steal. So we're doing that.
John, what are you doing with the referees? How are they prepared for social distancing and all that stuff?
So Lisa, actually, that's a great question. I'm concerned, and one of the things that we always do is safety. Safety for our students is the most important thing that we do. But taking that into consideration, we also have to think about the adults that are involved with our students. So, whether it be the coaches or our scorekeepers, our ticket sellers, or the officials. And that's all. We're short of officials. We have a shortage of officials in Section 3. Actually, in New York State and across the country, we're hurting for officials. Every sport across the board. I'm just concerned some of those officials might say, you know what, I don't want to put myself in this situation. No one has actually said that yet, but I'm thinking that people might say, for $100, it's really not worth, putting myself in that type of situation. So we're out there still trying to recruit more officials. We're working with our officials organizations. there's going to be things that we need to tweak from a normal type of game. And probably the biggest thing, Lisa, would be like handshakes or touching, shared equipment, that type of thing like that. So we've got to make adjustments and that kind of stuff. So that's part of our plans moving forward. But I think officials, it plays a big role in everything that we do.
Yeah. John, I mean, we always like to ask, during the pandemic, when this hit in March, obviously, no lacrosse, no baseball, no spring sports, but you tried to put some things together, and we've noticed that, out there in the community. What were some of the things that you did to create some synergies for these kids during their senior year, things that you have done for the sports at the end of the year?
So I think the most important thing that we did right from early March was we kept pushing to try to get some sort of spring sports for those students, whether it be an abbreviated sports season, whether it be the entire sports season. But we wanted to do whatever we could do to get those students back on the playing field, because, that's very, very important. We always talk about athletics as an extension of the classroom, and so those students, that's a big part of their day, is to the after school activities, whether it be band, whether it be plays, whether it be sports, that type of thing. So we were doing everything possible. We were working with our county health officials to try to get those going, and or to try to get back to school. Once we got to a point where we realized that we weren't going to have school probably after the middle of May, the main thing that we have left in that is our Scholar Athlete Dinner, which I think is the best program that we offer in Section 3 all year long. We normally have a dinner up at the SRC Arena for about 950 people. Every school sends their top male, top female that has excelled in the classroom, on the playing field, and in the community. And if you ever see some of the resumes of these students, it's very incredible on all of the things that they do. So we always have this dinner, but we couldn't do it this year, especially for 950 people. So we worked with one of the local television stations. We did a virtual type of award show. We still recognize the students. We had like a media day where we did social distancing, where the students, schedule an appointment. They stopped by the Section 3 office, picked up their scholarship. Every student received at least a $100 scholarship. And we get that money from basically the profits that we have from our championships. And then we have a couple sponsors that we were able to give additional sponsors. So overall, we gave about $25,000 away in sponsorship to about 179 students this past spring. So, we tried to still make it special for those students and give them the recognition that they were deserved. But, we had to tweak it. And hopefully next year we can get back to normal than what we've done in previous years. But, we still tried to honor the students that really deserve that recognition.
That's awesome. Awesome job.
Hey, John, I know moving forward into the fall, we were talking about like some of the pro leagues that are trying to figure it out and get back playing. In the fall sports, for example, football, it's so much different. Obviously, the pros, they can stay in a bubble of some kind or whatever they end up working out. But high school kids are going to class. It's a whole different ball game. And I'm sure that's one of the many scenarios that you're working on for this coming fall.
Yeah, and I'm concerned with the fall sports myself, because really that's the sports season where we have the most contact between the athletes, whether it be football, whether it be boys and girls soccer, whether it be field hockey. I mean, there's just an awful lot of contact in there that we really need to take a look at those sports and see what adjustments we can make moving forward. The other part of that concerns me is most of these students haven't been in gym class since early March. So there's a long period of time where they really haven't had any kind of physical activities. A lot of those fall sports do summer activities, and most schools are closed right now. There's no camps. There's no clinics that these students go to. I know in football they do a lot of 7-on-7 leagues. They do a lot of team camps. That's not happening this year. So I'm concerned when the students come back on August 24th, and then we've got football games 10 days later or a soccer game 6 days later. I'm concerned, of injuries that we probably have never seen before, only because there's been an inactivity with these students for a good 6-month period. So, we've tried to come up with some guidelines right now for the summertime, but it's an individual type thing, talking into a team sport. So I'm really concerned with any kind of muscle injuries that we've never really seen before that we're going to have to deal with right now if we get started on August 24th or September 1st or whatever it may be.
John, I have a suggestion. Group yoga, mass yoga through all of the high schools during the summer, so they'll be nice and limber and stretched out and at peace.
Yeah, I saw those yoga bubbles the other day online there, type thing like that. So maybe we can do something like that. But I think, you know, the most important thing is getting the students back involved with some sort of physical activity. And if we have to delay the start of the sports season, so we can maybe do 2 or 3 weeks of a preseason type training, so we don't have these injuries, you know, I think that may not be a bad idea.
Hey, John, I went on the website for Section 3, and I like the composite schedule on there because all it is meetings, and it's got home and away.
Yeah.
It's like home,
Yeah.
you know, away. You had an away meeting at Saratoga, but you had some home meetings here as well.
I probably do about 125, 150 meetings a year. So yeah.
So John,
I don't have a life outside Section 3.
you mentioned real quick, because give us a little peek behind the curtain. You mentioned A, B, C, and D.
Yep.
You know, can you give us a quick A, B, C, D in your mind what that looks like?
Sure. So plan A would be a normal sports season. We're back to as normal as we can. We start practice on August 24th. You know, we start games of soccer and field hockey, cross country, track and cross country, tennis only needs 6 days of practice. Football needs 10 days of practice. So plan A would be a normal sports season. Plan B would be maybe we just do a regional type thing. So if there's no travel outside the section. So plan B would maybe be a reduced sports season. We would start the season a little bit later and only do regular season and then maybe do a sectional championship. So if we did like an 8-week sports season, do 6 weeks of regular season play, 2 weeks of sectional play, and then call it a season with no travel outside the region, you know, whether it to be Section 4, Section 5, you know, the Binghamton, Albany areas, anything like that. Plan C would be just a regular sports season with no sectional play, and you would play within your league. So there would be no travel outside your league. And then plan D would be there'd be no sports season at all, which we don't want to get to because that spring season was probably the worst 4 months of my professional career. It was just terrible. And my heart bled for those high school seniors or those students that worked so hard for their sports season and all of a sudden having that taken away from them. You know, I think adults can adjust to it, but, you know, 14, 15-year-old student, that's a big thing for them. And I would never, ever, ever want to go through that again. So those are our 4 plans right now. And then we have a cafeteria list on different things we can do for each sports season that maybe make it a little bit safer. I'll give you an example, maybe no more handshakes. And you would think there's only one handshake at the end of the game, but there's a lot of handshakes. You know, officials come out on the field, they shake the coach's hand, they shake the captain's hands, captains shake each other's hands, high fives after you score a goal or touchdown. You know, so we're just going to try to eliminate as much as possible. After the game, instead of the team shaking hands, you stand in front of your bench, you acknowledge the official, you acknowledge the opposing team, acknowledge the spectators, something like that. So we'll reduce, you know, that much of a touching. But still, in every sport, you know, you've got touching of the equipment, the shared equipment that we've got to make sure that it's clean, you know, before the game, maybe at halftime, after the game type thing like that. And so every sport, there's equipment there. 5 or 6, 10 people touched during that sports season or sports game that, you know, we have to focus in on too.
Now, is that similar with, would you be worried about, I know we go the guidelines of the state, but spectators, like you're hearing baseball or, you know, kids baseball, only 2 parents, the umps behind, you know, the pitcher, they're only, you know, spectator wise, would that be under your jurisdiction or would follow?
Yeah, so those are the guidelines that we're waiting from CDC to tell us what we have to do, and then the cost that's associated with that. So if a high school has to now take temperatures of everybody's walking into a field hockey game, you know, who's going to do that? Who's going to pay for that? You know, and the other part of that is that the reduced funding into school districts this year, and how's that going to affect after school activities and the additional expenses that are associated with running these after school activities. So, so I'm concerned with that.
Wow, a lot of concerns and stuff that you don't think about on the surface until you start digging into it, John. So
yeah, well, and Lisa brought up the thing with officials, but I'm also concerned with the bus drivers. You know, there may not be enough bus drivers who want to get on the bus with 60 football players after a game, and so things like that you never really think about that we now have to take into consideration.
You know, a lot of bus drivers are retired or this is their second job. You know, they're in their 60s and 70s and they're like, I'll drive to a game, you know, a couple times a month, but now it's complicated.
Yeah. Well, and I've got a soccer organization that 65% of their memberships are older than 60 years old. So, we're all getting a little bit older except Gomez, but we're all getting a little bit older. So, we have to think about those kind of things.
Yeah, no, that's,
Hey, John, how many years you been with Section 3 now?
So I'm starting my 13th year right now, but it's a great job. I love it. I love coming to work every day. And I always say there's never any 2 days that are alike. Well, guess what? Since March 5th, no 2 days have ever been alike. And so it's just, but everybody thinks I get this crystal ball. I know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I'm still waiting to find out that one person.
I was asking
what's going to happen tomorrow.
yeah.
Well,
I told them, I said, but what about cross country? All they do is run. There's no exposure run.
Yeah. Well, but cross country is one of those things because when we have our sectional championship, we have to rent out like 20 porta potties. Who's going to clean those porta potties in between races? That type of thing. So there's a lot of little things administrative wise we have to take a look at because we want a clean and safe environment for not only the students to compete in, but also, the spectators are there watching them.
John, how long has this organization been around?
Oh, God.
Let's talk, forget about what's going on in the world. I want to know a little bit about when it started, ultimately the objective of Section 3. I mean, I would think championships, finding new places, new venues for games and semis and all that stuff. But what is the ultimate objective of what you guys all do?
Yeah, so we basically started back in the 1950s. Otis Sennett was our first executive director, and Otis Sennett's was around for, it seemed like 100 years, but he was really the person that set up this whole organization. He was very instrumental in establishing the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. But really what we are, we're an extension of the classroom. We're all part of the educational type thing. We work with the New York State Education Department, the state association. And what our responsibility is, we're almost like a miniature college athletic program. We oversee athletic eligibility for all of our students. We do contracts with all of our facilities, with all of our independent contractors who work for us. But we're the governing body for all of our 106 schools to make sure that we're all playing by the same rules, that everybody has a fair and equal opportunity to participate not only in the regular season but postseason play, and then hopefully onto a state championship. So we have probably about 75,000 student athletes that participate high school athletics in Section 3 every year. So we're up and running, and like I said before, there's never 2 days that are ever alike.
Board of directors.
Yep. Yeah, so our governing body is our athletic council, and that's made up of representatives of each of our 6 different leagues. And every policy procedure that we do within Section 3, it goes through our athletic council, and they meet 5 times a year. And then beyond that, I have an executive committee that oversees the Section 3 office and our employees. They're sort of like our Board of Education, that deals with the financial aspects of Section 3. But we're a nonprofit organization, so we try to break even every year. But like I said, we're like a college. We have 32 championships. 19 of my 32 championships loses money. So I've got to try to make money on football, basketball, baseball, softball to pay for, wrestling, golf, swimming, tennis. Some of those sports there's just no way you're going to ever, make any money off of too. So, so it's a challenge in every year to make sure that, we keep our head above water. And then when we have good years, and then we're able to give the money back to our students, whether it's through scholarships. The last couple of years, we've done leadership training for our students. We spend about $65,000, $70,000 a year on leadership training. So they're getting a little bit more out of than just athletics.
Good.
Well, John, complicated stuff, obviously, and you guys are doing a great job of that. And my own little piece of Section 3. Joe, I don't even know if I told you this story before, but at Marcellus, I wrestled and played baseball.
What was the weight group, Gomez?
Oh my God.
85 pounds.
I'm going to guess 119.
132.
Well, I had you at 119. Okay.
But my record with wrestling, I only did it for a couple of seasons. I think I was 2-14-1. So it wasn't very good. But in baseball, is my one claim to athletic greatness in Section 3 in a high school game against Port Byron. I was a pitcher. I struck out future New York Yankee Mel Hall.
No
nice.
Way, Gomez.
That's my only thing I can hang my hat on. I tell anybody that's willing to listen.
Right. Lisa, what about you? Sports?
I played soccer, and I went to a very small Catholic high school, and you had no choice. You had to play sports every season. You had to do something. They weren't letting kids just say no. So I played soccer in the fall, was a cheerleader for basketball in the winter, and then played softball. And by played softball, like I went out there and held my glove up.
Did
I
you
was
pick
terrible.
dandelions and flowers?
No. But I was a terrible soccer player, except for I was very aggressive. And I used to get the bell ringer award, which was they gave to the kid who was just like a maniac. I would slide tackle, and the coach was always like, just stay on her. And that was my job, to be super annoying. And that was my job as a fullback in soccer.
Well, I got to plug my high school, Gomez, West Jenny.
That's right. Go Wildcats.
I don't know why I played baseball. My dad put me in baseball, and I should have been in Lax, John, from that school, lacrosse, in basketball. So, West Jenny.
All right, go Wildcats. Go Mustang.
Go Saints. Sales Saints. Go Saints.
Great job, John, and we wish you the best. And we all want sports in Central New York in Section 3.
Yeah, so do we. So, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we can get those students back on the playing field come September.
All right, cool. Thanks, John. It's Survive and Thrive with CH Insurance and Joe Convertino Jr. and John Rathbun this week from Section 3. Guys, thanks. We'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.